What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What's up, Fantasy Points? This is the DFS cage match for week 15. If you are new here, this is how it's going to go. There are 3 of us here. We are going to draft DraftKings teams in a snake draft style against each other, keep it under the DraftKings salary cap. All the regular rules for a contest. Just for the 3 of us playing against each other, and we're going to be playing for charity. We each had to pick a charity. Whoever's charity wins, Fantasy Points will donate $100 to the winner's charity of choice. As always, it's me with Jake Tribbey, and we have a rotating guest every single week. This week, it is Megan from Fanspeak. Megan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Neil. We were talking pre-show. I had so much fun doing best ball drafts with you. Now I get to meet Jake, get in the cage match with both of you, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, I mean, and we were also discussing how Megan and I have a killer best ball team. Still pretty likely to get tossed out this week, as most teams are, but we are hopeful that we might have one that has a little bit of juice. That's a fun one. And then Jake and I also have a couple best ball teams. We, as I was telling Jake before, we just missed with a couple of our teams, but we got a couple in as well. Jake, how are you feeling about your best ball teams, and how are you feeling in general?
Feeling pretty good about my best ball teams. I didn't play quite as much volume as I did in years past. Still advanced around 20% of my team. So, with a average advance rate around 16%, obviously can feel good about that. But with, massive amounts of variance over the next 3 weeks, I can't say that I'm, eagerly anticipating any major wins. But best ball is all about the hope, right? And I certainly have plenty of that over the next couple of weeks. So it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, feeling good, ready to redeem myself in the cage, which is something I say every week and never really follow through on.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Megan, I didn't even ask you. I asked you about our team because I know I'm excited about our team together, but I assume you had a pretty good advance rate in best ball also, because you were pretty into all of the running backs that absolutely crushed this year. You were into Sam Darnold. So a lot of great takes by you this summer. How are your best ball teams looking?
Oh, thank you. Well, we all have hits, we all have misses, but I was pretty excited about being really heavy on the double anchor RB. And I have an advance rate around 25%. I was all underdog this year. And so, and I did a lot more of the outside of BBM too. So I hope that helps me because, like you, Neil, I was in BBM 3 finals. And then I thought, oh yeah, we're just going to make the finals again. And I didn't do my contest selection last year was very much the top heavy prizes and the not great advance rates. And I was very, very cognizant of that this year. And so everything, I only did 70 BBMs and then obviously did some co-stream stuff. And then everything else is those 1 of 6, 1 of 5. I just won a week 17 sweat. So I'm hoping that leads to some better results because it was miserable last year, like you said. Now we're full of hope right now, like Jake said, but it can get brutal, especially in those 1 of 13, 1 of 16. So hoping that leads to better results this year.
Week 17, when you don't have a sweat after you've been excited about it all leading up, and then you get just short. I had one that came 1 fantasy point short last week. It was the most brutal thing on Monday Night Football. I think, I don't know, it's the worst. So I did the same. I played more of those lower dollar stuff just to give me something to cheer for, potentially. Hopefully, give me more shots at the finals.
That's what I'm hoping
to. We'll see. Yeah.
Before
we get into drafting, we're going to do 2 things. First, we're going to go over our charities of choice. Then we're going to review our teams from last week. It'll just take a few minutes. Then we're going to get into drafting for this week's games. So my team, I won last week, and my charity of choice was Rough Start Rescue, a local dog shelter here, animal shelter here in Minnesota that I know people who are associated with it. They do great work with local animals. So we Fantasy Point sending some money to Rough Start Rescue. Jake, I know you've done this a few times already, but you are once again going with Beloved Asheville. Do you want to say a few words about Beloved Asheville?
Yeah, great local grassroots charity in the Asheville area. And obviously they need the help now more than ever, helping people rebuild their homes and, get all the resources that people need to the Asheville area. So yeah, hopefully this is the week that we will be able to send $100 to Beloved Asheville.
Yep. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
I don't really want you to win, but I want Beloved Asheville to get some money at least. So good luck.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I guess that would be nice.
Yeah. Megan, you chose the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network as your choice. Do you want to say a few words about this charity?
Yeah, my aunt passed away almost 14 years ago to the day to pancreatic cancer. And it's just, I mean, all cancers are awful, but this one is, there's not many warning signs to catch it early, and that makes the survival rate very hard. So my family's done the Purple Stride Walk as they're promoting there, and I've always tried to donate to the PanCan Network. So I thought it was an appropriate one, especially on the anniversary. Thinking about my aunt this week.
Yeah, great choice. I went with my new charity this week, the Michael J. Fox Organization Foundation. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's earlier this year, maybe late last year. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I know it's a great organization supporting Parkinson's, so one a little bit personal to me. So there we have it for this week's charities. Let's get into reviewing last week's teams, then we will draft for this week. Jake, as the third place team, you get to review your team first. And Aiden O'Connell, that was certainly a choice. Are you feeling good about that choice now?
Yeah, I mean, Aiden O'Connell projected really, really well, and then everyone thought he broke his leg, and it only ended up being a bone bruise. Got carted off with an air cast despite a bone bruise. That's something I've never heard of before, but of course it happened on the week I drafted the young man in cage match. Alvin Kamara was a guy who I wasn't really excited about for DFS tournaments. I think especially by Sunday morning, I'd really come around to playing some of the other running backs on this slate, but I think especially for a 3-man format, sort of a no-brainer type play. Bucky Irving was a guy who I was really excited about early in the week. Later week, injury news didn't look great on him. Obviously, he did end up suiting up, and then he re-aggravated his back and missed. So, between my quarterback and a $6,600 running back both leaving the game early, that's always tough to overcome. Jawan Jennings, Jerry Jeudy were really strong plays who ended up performing. Kevin Austin was a guy who I got, partially for the brand. He's a spring football guy, a former Birmingham Stallion, but he also projected okay and helped me sort of fill out the lineup there. And then, Bowers, Bijan Robinson, those are just alpha plays who, ideally would have delivered a little bit more there. Bijan, the Atlanta offense just never really got going to the extent that they needed to. It seemed like most of the volume was flowing through Mooney, but he still got you 20 points. Bowers just did absolutely nothing. Unfortunately, was tied to Aiden O'Connell and the overall lack of Raiders offensive success. So yeah, this is actually one of the losing teams that I felt best about all year. But yeah, it just didn't work out due to injuries for the most part.
I want to make fun of this team, but as I look at it, there are a lot of players here that I really liked last week in DFS.
Yeah.
Bowers, I was super in on last week in particular, but Jennings, Jeudy, a lot of Bucky Irving, a lot of strong plays here.
Where'd you end up coming in on Bowers versus Jacoby Myers for your tournament teams? I ended up with a good amount of both because obviously they were just projecting it incredibly well, but probably should have factored in a little bit more risk of just the offense being absolutely awful.
The answer is I don't remember, but I think I was heavier on Bowers. I know that I was really into Bowers last week, so I would assume that I ended up with more Bowers, but I think I had a lot of both of the two of them. I don't remember exactly. We are first of all, Tom, can you throw up Tyler's first comment there on the screen? I thought that was a good one because I've accepted that I'm an old man. I'm not even insulted by that, but I love that.
I have not accepted that I suck at cage match. I am insulted by that, Tyler. I will be turning things around here shortly.
The perfect comment then. In that,
I just like hearing Meg. So good to see Tyler in the chat.
Now, Meg, so this was Ricky, our fresh's team last week. We had Trey. Ricky is in Canada, so he couldn't enter his own team. So Trey was kind enough to enter Ricky's lineup for him. Came in second place with 117 points. You have not had a chance to look at this lineup yet, but at a glance, do you have any thoughts on? Do you like the correlation of Gino with JSN? Do you like these players? How do you feel about this team?
Yeah, I was generally lower on that game because the first game was, pretty low scoring between those two. But yeah, I mean, Gino, they throw at a high rate. And JSN has been performing very well. So I like the Gino JSN stack. I was obviously very high on Barkley. It just felt like the move to play, the guy leading the league in rushing against the worst rushing defense. So I liked that. And then as far as some of the other plays, I think Pollard was kind of a nice leverage play. I'm not sure what he came in ownership in tournaments, but I got the kind of the leverage stance there because a lot of people were paying down for Levis and Ridley. So I really do like the Pollard Titans correlation. Yeah. And, I think with the unknown of Pickens, I get taking a shot on like a cheap Pittsburgh receiver. So I think all this makes sense, and Cooper definitely, got there for the Bills in that high scoring affair. So overall, I think everything in this lineup makes sense. Too bad he got second, but it all makes sense to me.
agree with most of what you said there, except for the too bad he got second part, because I was a fan of this line of getting second. That was actually perfect.
That's true. That's true. Sorry, Tom.
My team, Baker Mayfield at quarterback with the double stack with Mike Evans and Sterling Shepard. I had the bring back of Jacoby Myers. I was big on Trey McBride. He still did not score a touchdown for me. I could have used it in my eliminator team, which lost because he didn't get quite enough last week. Drake London, a little bit of a letdown, but Garendo, again, I think Jake was not a huge fan of the Garendo pick, and once again, the pick that absolutely smashed last week. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe that was not the one that you did make fun of. Tyrone Tracy didn't actually project all that well. It was one that on Wednesday looked pretty good to me, and then by the time Sunday came around, I was like, oh yeah, he doesn't project well point per dollar at all. Sort of worked out. Saints defense kind of came through for me. Ultimately, I feel good about the team. I think it was, a decent team. Only 139 fantasy points on a week that was really, really high scoring. So really, we all kind of missed like the best plays on the week. But I still feel like it was a pretty good lineup.
I was very high in the Baker Evans stack last week, and I realized I just said Tom because I saw Tyler and I thought Tom. So my mind is just, I got to lock in here.
Yeah, it's fair. Jake, you look like you had something you want to say.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wasn't down on the Garendo pick. He was a guy that I played a lot of in my own stuff. I ended up with way more Charbonnet in my own builds, which obviously ended up, also working out. But yeah, I think the Garendo pick was fine. I'm trying to remember if I did roast you for any of these. If I did, it was probably either Tracy or London, but even those guys still projected okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't roast this team too bad. Overall.
Yeah, I got the Sterling Shepard pick was straight from Debro. Just gave me. He said he wanted.
Yeah, that was a great call.
Sterling Shepard.
Yeah,
worked out pretty well there. I think it's a pretty decent team there. I feel okay about it. But let's move on. Let's move on to drafting this week's teams. And as I recall, Jake, I am going first. Megan chose the number 3 spot, so it's going to be me, Jake, and then Megan gets the 3rd and 4th picks, and we're going to be snaking through the draft. So my pick, and let me just take a quick look. I think I know what I want to do here, and that is Chuba Hubbard against Dallas. One of the top point per dollar plays on the slate at fantasy points. No, we don't have to worry about, don't even think about Jonathan Brooks anymore taking any carries here. The Dallas defense has been pretty bad. Chuba Hubbard has been really good. So I feel good about that pick. What do you think?
I like it. Yeah, he was in my running back pool for sure.
Yeah, that would have been my first pick if I was drafting number 1 overall, or if he was still on the board when it got back to me, which puts me in a trickier spot here for pick.
You should have known. You should have known that I was going to take Chuba Hubbard, Jake.
Yeah, I should have. Okay, I'm going to go with, well, no, I feel like that's probably too aggressive. I'll just grab, oh my gosh, this actually is tough. Normally there's like 4 or 5 guys who are just, you can sort of blindly fire on in the first round. And this week I feel like is a lot more wide open. I'm going to go with Chase Brown. I feel like that's the best pick. And I also feel like the board will be more interesting here in a couple rounds. Chase Brown, 80% of snaps, getting basically every single backfield touch, every sort of high value touch here. Bengals are putting up a ton of points. Really just a no-brainer at 7,200. A player seeing the usage that he is, and an offense as good as the Bengals should be 83, 84 at least. I'm sure will be one of my highest owned running backs on the main slate here. Wish I could have come away with Chuba Hubbard there, but I do think Brown's in that next sort of tier of running backs on this slate.
Yeah, Brown definitely a league winner right now. Looking pretty awesome. All right, now Megan, you get 2 picks. Do you have you given any thought to what you want to do here?
Yes, I'm just seeing your comment about Mike Boone costing you $90K, and you must be incredibly triggered by that. So it was the week before my biggest win ever. I was less triggered after that, and it was brutal. But at the end of the day, I got to forget about it. I mean, I guess I didn't forget about it, but pretty quickly got to forgive, I guess. Okay, so this pick is going to go in the flex for me because I'll likely be doing 3 running backs. So playing in the big high scoring total game or high total game, Bills, Lions. Bills are terrible against the running game. They're terrible against running backs out of the backfield. Give me David Montgomery as my first pick.
All right.
And then as for my second pick, I said that I was going to stay close to the best ball brand and just double down. I was going to do Henry or Saquon because that was part of what I am really doubling down on and rooting for this weekend. But I'm actually going to go Brian Robinson Jr. in a pristine matchup against the Saints. So kind of, two of those mid-price running backs here are going to be my two selections.
Would have been tough, I think, if you did go with Saquon or Henry there. Like just the pricing gets tough really quick after taking a $7,000. So it makes it a little bit easier. Salary wise, looks good. Yeah. Jake, do you know what you want to do with your second pick?
I can't say that I know that much more than when I was picking in the first round. So this is a little tricky for me. I think I want to just take the best quarterback. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert. Right now, Will Levis.
Oh, you took mine. I had that.
Okay, that makes me happy to hear. Right now, Will Levis is popping a bit more in our projections, but overall, this is just a really, really strong spot for Justin Herbert. I mean, against Tampa Bay, he's dealing with a bit of an injury, so maybe the mobility won't be quite as good, but that's not something I'm particularly worried about when you're, dealing with a Tampa Bay pass defense that has been just absolutely terrible. Obviously, we've seen the Chargers throw a lot more than they were earlier in the season. And Tampa Bay has an offense that can push. So, this could be a really, really great game environment. We're going to be sort of hard pressed for ways to get away from Buffalo, Detroit, at least in terms of, finding upside in game environments. And, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles is certainly one of the top ones on my list after that Buffalo game.
Yeah. You get some pretty good stacking partners with Justin Herbert. Also one of the top values there, Ladd McConkey coming back. I can't hate on that pick.
This is stressful. Right. This cage match is stressful. I had everything lined out with Justin Herbert. Now, Jake stole it from me. So this is stressful stuff. I like it.
And the stress only gets compounded. It only gets compounded if you lose week after week after week. I know it's true of someone on this show, but I can't remember who though.
Yeah. Can't imagine who that could be.
No one knows.
The key to this, by the way, is just not thinking about it at all. Giving zero thought to who you want to take before it is your turn. And then once it's your turn, you just kind of look at who are the top projected plays. Yeah. And you just kind of gut feel it, within the confines of some of the top projected plays. Yeah. Is my approach at least. I'm not sure what Bucky Irving's status is, which makes my a pick that I'm thinking about a little bit tougher to want to go to here. Maybe I can find it. Do we know Bucky Irving? Let's see.
So I was looking earlier in the day and I didn't see any practice reports, but that was also like 5 hours ago. So I'm not sure what his status is. I know Bowles said that he just tweaked his back in the game. They got to see how it feels. If they can get it loosened up, he should be okay. If not, we'll see how the week goes. I mean, Bowles, injury coach speak is always just like he never tells you anything because he doesn't really even understand medical stuff at all. He'll say that, like, I have no idea what the deal is with this injury, but here's my best guess. And it's never that helpful.
All right. It's not that helpful. All right. I think I'm going to go, Yeah, I think I'm going to continue game stacking a little bit. And I hate to do running backs against each other, and he doesn't project that well point per dollar, but Rico Dowdle's role has just been awesome in recent weeks. So I think against Carolina, 6,100, just not quite enough for Rico Dowdle. So I'm going to start there. And then I'm going to continue the game stack. Adam Thielen has just been awesome. I'm not really worried about Jalen Coker. What do you guys think? Should I be more worried about Jalen Coker than I am now that I've made my pick? No takesy backsies. Do you think the role is in danger at all?
I don't. I think. I mean, I know. I saw some stuff today, kind of questioning could that affect Thielen, but I still like Thielen this week.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really see how they could move Thielen out of the slot when he's been so successful, and this has also sort of coincided with a resurgence from Bryce Young. It just seems like he's a guy that they need on the field for, Bryce Young's own success. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about Thielen. I'd imagine, both Thielen and Coker are sort of like oversized slot players. So I feel like it'd be relatively easy to bump Coker outside to at least get him some reps.
True. Okay, good. I feel good about it. I feel good about the pick.
Yeah.
All right. Back to Jake for your third pick.
This is tricky. I think I might just go value here, and then I can grab some more exciting players later on because I don't see a huge projections gap overall at any individual position. But I do think there's one very strong way to save salary at tight end right now, and that's with Stone Smart. Will Dissly is expected to miss a couple of weeks, and Stone Smart is 2,600. Chargers tight ends have been relatively productive this year, but really, I mean, whenever you're playing a tight end who's sub 3K, it's more about the the salary flexibility that they give you and the players they enable you to get up to than it is their actual production. So getting a 2,600 guy who probably isn't going to zero is going to enable me to do a lot here.
I had it at -1,000 that you were going to take Stone Smart there. One of the top point per dollar plays at Fantasy Points, and he also obviously correlates with your quarterback. So I think it's the right pick, and I kind of assumed that was going to be the way you went there. Megan, you get 2 picks now. You have 52-57 left per player. Who have you given any thought to you want here?
Yes. Well, I like Jake's pick. I had it outlined, and it was, Herbert, Stone Smart. So, I like that he went ahead and grabbed that value. I'm
a
great sign for me.
I'm a queen of like pay down cheap tight ends situation. So love that how cheap he is. So I talked about it. I'm going to go to it. Coming off a bye, we know Derrick Henry just ramps up each month that gets colder. And he's got an awesome matchup this week. Team is just massively favored. So I'm going to go Derrick Henry, and I am going to spend up and pigeonhole myself here a little bit.
Wow. Okay. You still have 47.50 left.
Yeah. And then I really like, I might be totally just doubling down on all like best ball takes. I really like Ridley this week. And so I'm going to go Calvin Ridley as my first receiver. It looks like he is one of the higher wide receiver values on the Fantasy Points chart.
Yep.
So I do like Ridley this week.
And potentially setting yourself up for a value stack. Now,
exactly.
Am I going
to
that
into play,
snipe it though? Yes. The question is, am I going to snipe
right.
it? So
yeah.
Who knows? I like that pick. Ridley looks great here. Not very expensive. Great matchup with Cincinnati. Jake, who do you want with your 4th round pick?
That's a great question. I did want to acknowledge the fantastic comment you put in the chat, Neil. Stone dumb with 2 B's. That's really sharp. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, I got you with that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you did. You're really making me regret that pick. Yeah, this is tricky. So I got Herbert, I got Chase Brown, got Stone Smart. I'm pretty flexible with salary here, which does make me kind of want to spend up a bit at running back. Yeah, it's just so flat at wide receiver. So I'm gonna go with I do want Rashad, but I'm really scared of Bucky's practice status. I'm convinced that if Neil drafted Rashad, Bucky would sit, but if I draft Rashad, Bucky is pretty much a lock to play.
That's probably true. Don't risk it.
So I'm gonna go with Joe Mixon.
I like it.
Yeah, Mixon only 7,800. I mean, he's seeing usage of a guy who should be probably at least 85. I wrote this up earlier today. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I know Houston's favored here. And in Houston's wins, Joe Mixon has been absolutely incredible. A low of 24.9 DraftKings points in Houston's wins when healthy. He obviously did get hurt during that week 2 game. But yeah, Mixon has just been an absolute crusher in Houston wins. And, we could see this being a pretty good game environment. Obviously, Miami could push a little bit. I guess the one risk with Mixon is if Miami got out to a huge lead, we would see a lot more Agumbawale, a little bit less Mixon in the passing game. So that would be my main concern with the play. But I think overall he's going to project really, really well. I mean, he already does in the sort of preliminary Wednesday fantasy points projections. And I'd imagine he'll probably end up as, top 5, top 7 owned running back on this week's slate because the usage has just been absolutely incredible for Mixon this year.
Definitely a guy you'd like to have on your best ball teams next week. He's just been awesome. All right, so it's back to me. I've got 2 running backs and a receiver. 53-33 left per player. I'm looking through and I've been trying to figure out who I want and have not been able to settle on any player that I really love here. There are a few okay options. Man, I wish. You know what? I'm just going to do it. Hate the matchup, but I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy anyway. Just 6,200, a bit too cheap for his role. We've got David Njoku potentially out this week. If they were playing against like not any other, there are, I guess, a few other teams that I would be concerned about. But I don't love the matchup with the Chiefs. But I think the volume is just so good that Judy still looks pretty good anyway. But particularly if we do get Njoku
How much
out.
does matchup matter? How much does matchup matter when we're dealing with Jameis Winston at quarterback?
I mean, that's a good point.
He's just going to throw it deep regardless. And I was looking, and this was specifically for quarterbacks because I haven't gotten to wide receivers this week. But at least second half of the season, Kansas City has not been any tougher than, slightly below neutral matchup for opposing quarterbacks. So it hasn't been, as dramatic of a play given the narrative, at least in terms of matchup.
No, that is very true. Which makes me think, should I be thinking about another? I mean, only 3 receptions last week for Elijah Moore. I assume Cedric Tillman is still out. I have not actually. Oh, he's questionable. Slated to return to practice. Okay, limited basis.
Yeah, you got to think he's going to come back soon because he's been dealing with the concussion. So full season, Kansas City profiles is like a pretty tough outside wide receiver matchup, a lot softer versus opposing slots. So that would kind of speak to a little bit more Elijah Moore. And that also is a very similar trend over the last 5 weeks, but a bit closer to neutral for outside wide receivers and like this single best matchup or second best for slots. So probably a bit more of an Elijah Moore game, but I don't think one where you have to shy away from Judy, especially with how well he's going to project, even if Tillman plays.
I mean, I was thinking about taking another one of Elijah Moore or Cedric Tillman, doing the double stack there and just, getting all that volume, get those 14 catches locked in. But I don't know that I want to do that just yet.
I mean, they all might catch 14 passes, especially with no Njoku.
They might. Yeah. Man, this is a tough one. I'm going to go with, I think this is one matchup that maybe Aaron Rodgers does not completely suck in. So I'm going to go with Devontae Adams at 6,900. Use a little bit of my salary, and I'm down to 47.25 per player. I know. Do you guys agree with Aaron Rodgers? Are you tired of these football players going on TV and trying to get attention?
I mean, I'll agree with
We're
him.
all trying to find the guy who's. We're all trying to find the guy who's doing this, right?
Yeah.
It's the I think you should leave meme. He's in the hot dog costume.
The most incredible thing for Aaron Rodgers to say is that other football players are going on TV looking for attention. Just insane.
Right. I will agree that today's ESPN is not like my childhood ESPN. I will agree with that statement.
Yeah, for sure.
With that.
Yeah. Jake, you are up. You have 5,300 left, if I'm reading this right. Yep, 5,300 left per player. Do you know who you want here?
Yeah, I think I was kind of toying with this idea during the last round, but I think I'm just going to do it and guarantee Bucky Irving's availability by drafting Rachaad White.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm falling on the sword for the best ball community. All the people who need massive scores from Bucky Irving this week. You can thank me. But yeah, assuming Irving sits, obviously Rachaad White is an incredible play here. Sean Tucker was only live for about 21% of backfield XFP after Irving left the game. So you're looking at, 70 to 80% of backfield production in the second most productive backfield in fantasy right now, assuming Irving sits for Rachaad White. That is pretty great, even in a, tougher defensive matchup. It just doesn't really matter when you're 5,800 and could push for 18 to 20 opportunities. Yeah,
another one of the best point per dollar plays on the slate. I did think about going there, but I thought that you would be too cowardly and he would come back to me. Maybe
yeah,
but I thought Jake would for sure be too cowardly.
I think we were all playing chicken with Rachaad White because I thought about him in round 1 and then I was like, no, that feels too early. I feel like I should lock up a bit more, kind of sure thing type values. And I built a decent roster, and waiting a wide receiver just kind of feels like the right move. So here we are.
Well played.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Not bad. All right, Megan, back to you. You get 2 picks. Your 5th and 6th round picks. You were down to 45.20 left per player. You know who you want here?
Yeah. Well, I said how I like gross, like cheap tight ends, and Juwan Johnson almost won me like a tight end parlay last week. I know he's kind of Q tag, but like, who else do they have to throw to? So I believe he got 5 or 6 targets last week. I'm just into the gross cheap tight end, so I'm going to go Juwan Johnson.
Love that. Do you know who you want with your 2nd pick?
I'm debating between 2 receivers right now. Hold on 1 second. I just want to plug in and see what this gets me. Oof. All right. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm also into like the narrative. I know I said I wanted to do the Charger stack and I was going to run it back with Mike Evans. I'm still going to grab Mike Evans here. He's it's got to stay on pace for that 1,000 yards. It's going to be a highly competitive game of two teams that are, very much playing for playoff implications. And I believe per fantasy points, he's got a good matchup. Again, I'm just a fangirl of all fantasy points content. So I just have to do a lot more cramming on fantasy points this weekend. But I still like the matchup and want access to Mike Evans.
I also have a lot more cramming to do before the weekend, using the data suite primarily. Lot to learn the rest of the week. But yeah, looks good. Evans, nice matchup. Tough to argue with that one. Jake, back to you for your 6th round pick.
Yeah, I need receivers pretty clearly. I still have a decent amount of salary to work with here. Let's see what we can do. So there's Cortland Sutton against Indianapolis, looks okay. Then you're kind of looking at more expensive guys. Let's just fully complete my stack. I'll go Ladd McConkey, and then I'm sure the other strong receivers will find me. It sounded like he was really close on Sunday, so I'm not too worried about his injury availability. And obviously a guy like McConkey could absolutely torch this Tampa Bay secondary. So I feel like I got to, obviously for a 3-man, probably not optimal, but the theme of the show is drafting suboptimal 3-man teams, and me finding a way to lose anyway. But I think this is a really interesting stack, especially for tournaments. I could certainly see this being a framework for teams that I tried out a decent bit.
And we finally saw McConkey get like the volume we've been expecting.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt in that last game, it was like he was always like, I really wanted to love him, but then it was like 6 or 7 targets every game, and it's like just not quite there. And then finally he had like 9 in the first half, ended with 12 or something like that before he got hurt. So hopefully for you, that trend continues with Ladd McConkey. Seems like a good bet there. All right, back to me for my 6th and 7th picks. And I don't know who I want yet. So I'm going to give that a thought here for a second.
While you're thinking, Tyler's commentary is just too good in the chat.
Tyler always has a lot of interesting things to say.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
You're never bored reading Tyler's comments. That's for sure.
Correct. I'm trying to make some 2v2 decisions here myself. So
yeah, I don't have that much salary left, so it's a little bit tough.
I was gonna say, this is stressful. I like it though. I mean, I like it. I like the cage match. It's fun. Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, it's a good stressful.
Yeah. Do I go back to D-Bro's boy from last week? I know it's very like matchup dependent for him, so I'm not sure if it's as good of a matchup this week is the tough part.
I was thinking a lot about Shepard. This is just a really tough week for wide receiver value. Like, I mean, I think there's a pretty good chance that we'll have, at least a handful of sub 6K running backs that are viable this week, in Tracy, potentially Rashad. Tight end, obviously we have strong values. Quarterback, kind of like always later in the season, there's plenty of sub 6K options that look good. But yeah, I mean, at wide receiver, like just looking at the top fantasy points values, you go through about 15 guys before you get to Sterling Shepard. And, he's sort of the only reasonable sub 5K option in the top 20. And then you're getting into like the guys who benefit from the Noah Brown injury and stuff like that. That's always pretty thin.
Right.
It's tough.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. Thinking about another value tight end. Man, do I really want to lean in this hard on this matchup? I'm going to do it because he's only 3,800. I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson for my tight end. Just seems like a really great value for a $3,800 value. Jake Ferguson against Carolina. Just hard for me to pass that up, even with not great quarterback play. I think I'm happy with that. I think there's upside there.
Where is Jake Ferguson on your Jake power rankings?
Oh, he's top 7 probably for me.
Top 7?
Yeah.
Last I heard, I'm not even in the top 12.
No, but you're really close. If you don't
Okay.
count the Jake the former
The
name of the
stadium.
stadium,
That
then
isn't
you would
even
be top
called
12
that anymore. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's still the Jake in my heart. So yeah, if you exclude that, you would be top 12. But yeah, no, I think Jake Ferguson right around 7 for me.
Wow.
Obviously,
Okay.
Jake Bates best Jake.
Oh yeah, I mean
#1 in my
that's
heart.
not debatable. Even I can't contest that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good to know. Thanks for the clarity.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. All right. Now, who else? Who else do I want here? I think I want a defense because nobody has taken a defense yet. Right?
No, I don't believe so.
That's true. Neil's always, big on the game theory with the positions. If he sees us both draft quarterbacks early, he'll wait until the very last pick to take his quarterback.
Yeah, no,
True.
smart.
A true grinder.
I am. That's very, very accurate. Man, I don't. Oh, you know what I can do? I can look at the fantasy points projections too, so I don't have to think this hard about.
I was really hoping you weren't going to do that.
Usually works out pretty well for me when I do that. Oh man, the Browns. I'm not doing the Browns though.
I was just gonna say, oh, never mind. I say too much. I talk too much.
Yeah, don't give them anything.
Okay, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything.
Jets. It's the Jets for me. No Trevor Lawrence anymore. Yeah, the Jets look great. And then wait, do I have another pick here? No, I took Jake Ferguson and the Jets. So I'll send it back to Jake for your 7th round pick.
Yeah. Tyler asked me in the chat if I'm not into MBS as a cheap wide receiver. I mean, I guess I'd throw him out in, some GPP builds, but it's just so tough when it's a guy averaging, 3 targets a game, 4 targets a game. And he just is always turning them into 20 fantasy points. Very similar profile to like NWI in terms of just really outproducing the volume that he's getting. But that's fine for tournaments. It's just not something I'm super interested in this format. Let's see here. I'm still pretty flexible on salary, 4,800 per player. I'll grab the top fantasy points value and go with Cortland Sutton here. Not a player that I've looked into a ton, so I can't give super insightful commentary. But obviously the volume's been really strong. I mean, just pulling up the game logs, 10 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets. Really the only guy on Denver, at least in the past game, that you can count on. I mean, geez, that probably does include their running back room too, considering how that's played out this year. So yeah, outside of Nix and Sutton, there really isn't a lot of fantasy production that we can count on from the Broncos, but at least those guys have been fairly consistent, especially in the second half of the year. I mean, Sutton has been really, really strong.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, looks good. Nice matchup. Sending it back to Megan. Now you get to make your 2nd and 3rd to last picks. You have a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a defense left with 4,033 left per player.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I am going to stall for 1 second and see if this. He's not really projecting well. It looks like points per dollar, but I think I'm going to complete a stack here. 1 second. Just want to see what that leaves. Sorry, guys. This is.
No, you're good.
No, take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, this is standard procedure. So we're
okay. Good.
Yeah, normally I have to go on like long-winded rants while Neil takes 5-10 minutes figuring out his iffy at best picks. That still get there anyway.
That's right.
So I was deciding between Levis, who looked awful last week, or Baker, and completing the Mike Evans stack. Obviously, I was going to do one of those stacks. I'm going to go Levis. Because obviously he has the good points per dollar play, even though he did look awful last week. So I will do Levis as my first pick.
All right, now you have 35.
Because we know obviously attacking the Bengals secondary is nice. So yes, let me plug that in. Yeah, as much as I love old Big Dog, it does make it tough. It does make it tough. Okay. So the funny thing is I was going to go Browns defense, but then I don't know that I love the range that it puts me in for the receiver. So maybe I will pay up a little bit more on defense and kind of punt off my receiver a little bit more here. I'm taking a look at the fantasy points projected defenses here myself. Because you took Jets, right? Yes.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see if I do this, what it leaves me. No. Yeah, this will screw it. It'll give me time to figure out what I want to do. I actually think, the left tackle for the Chiefs has been a turnstile. We saw Mahomes get sacked a lot. So I'm just going to punt down with the Browns. They are the top projected points per dollar defense on fantasy points. And I was thinking about that going in. So I'm going to go Browns.
Potentially sets you up for a very nice double stack if you wanted it as well, I believe. Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to go that route. Now, is Jake going to play spoiler and take it from you? We'll see. Jake, do you know who you want here?
I think I do. I'm just trying to figure out exact salary stuff. So you guys both have a defense. So I should definitely be going wide receiver here. I learned this from Neil, who's the best cage match game theory in the world. All right, so that would leave me with like 28, which gets you an okay defense. So I'm going to go with Elijah Moore. I think the volume here could be really, really strong. Obviously, we have injury question marks with both Tillman and Njoku. I sort of assume one of those guys would miss, and even if they don't, volume should still be really, really strong here against a Kansas City defense that, as I noted earlier in the show, major slot funnel both full season and over the last 5 weeks. Very, very weak against the slot. Either if you look more recently, closer to neutral on the outside, but full season very tough on the outside as well. So I think volume could get funneled to Elijah Moore here, especially so if there are injury concerns, and then that leaves me 2,800 for a defense, which probably gets me one of Dallas or Carolina here, which I think are both pretty reasonable.
Can't argue too much because I was thinking about taking Elijah Moore earlier. All right, so I have 6,050 left per player with a quarterback and a flex. Good spot to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Have you thought about Jake Haener?
Haven't given any thought to Jake Haener.
Wow. Well, I'd imagine I'd be above Jake Haener on your Jake Power rankings. So
no, surprisingly, he's number 9. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty tough for me. I'm not sure I have anything left to say at this point.
He is likely starting though. I guess I'll give him that. I could go. Yeah, I don't love it. Do you want to go Cooper Rush here? What I've left over?
It's always tough to even just mentally price these guys who are bad. The Dallas offense has been awful. The Carolina offense has been better, but still pretty bad. And now they get to play each other, two terrible defenses. It's always tough to figure out how that game's going to go because it's easy to see these defenses can't stop anyone. There are going to be a lot of points. It's also just easy to see a really gross game where, both teams kind of grind each other down with the running backs and there just isn't a lot of offensive upside overall. Really interesting game environment though.
Yeah. All right. If I do that. Oh, interesting. Oh, and I have back-to-back picks here. I think I can make it work if I go double stack for Aaron Rodgers. Don't laugh at me. It's a good double stack.
I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at Drew's comment in the chat. The motivation is hard for bad teams at this point. It's probably what keeps happening to my cage match team. Yeah,
that's a good comment.
They see my record. They say we're not making the playoffs. It's over, guys. We gotta ship it and protect ourselves for hopefully a more fruitful year in 2025.
Yeah, that's a solid comment. All right, I finished my team off.
Wow,
I went with the Aaron Rodgers double stack. Yeah, just hoping for condensed passing, a lot of volume across the board there. Don't feel great about it with Aaron Rodgers, but
it's a good matchup. I mean, and he threw for over 300 last week, so he can do it again.
The matchup was just too good.
Do you think that's something you see yourself getting to in tournaments? Because, last week that was something that sort of projected pretty well, and I sort of forced it out of my own builds. I think if it had been a lower scoring week, that might have been competitive for, some decent tournament finishes. But yeah, I'm kind of curious where you guys fall on the Rodgers doubles, because it's really hard to have faith in this offense. But obviously when he does go off, it's sort of like, it's a bit like the Rams or the Bengals, not quite as good, not quite as much upside, but similar, where it's just ridiculously condensed.
Right.
Low prices.
Yeah, that's true.
I can see myself going there, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I like it. I kind of like it now that we're talking it through. I actually like it.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense. All right, it is back to Jake for your final pick, $2,800 defense.
Yeah, $2,800 defense here after I grabbed Elijah Moore. I'm pretty much stuck on a coin flip between Dallas and Carolina. I don't think Pittsburgh's really in play given how well Philadelphia has played. Jacksonville might not be a terrible idea to get leverage on Neal, but I'm sure they don't project nearly as well as those other two. Sorting by raw projections here over at fantasypoints.com, looks like we give a slight lean to the Cowboys, and that's sort of also what my intuition says, although it is, like I said, basically a coin flip. So I'll go Cowboys defense here. Get the used all your salary ribbon at the end of the week.
Congrats on using all of your salary. And Meg, you have 4,900 left over. Are you going to do what I assume you're going to do, or are you going to go something different?
I was debating that, and I looked at the fantasy points, projected points per dollar, and they're right next to each other. So I assume you meant Nick Westbrook-Akine, double stacking. But I'm actually going to pivot here. I really wanted access to the Chargers, and it's maybe a little leverage off Jake's stack. I'm going to go Josh Palmer and still think he was evolved. He looked great stepping up last week. I assume McConkey will be back as well. And, maybe Palmer doesn't get as many targets, but he almost caught that, or Herbert overthrew him on that long bomb, which would have been amazing for my best ball shares, but did not connect that. If he connects with one of those long ones, it's a little leverage, and it gets me a little skinny stack here with Mike Evans, because I really do like that game and the motivations and just those two teams, honestly. So, I'm going to go just get a little Chargers access with Josh Palmer.
I feel like Palmer has been very close to being a much better best ball pick. He had the Island game where he had like 4 different long pass interference calls where he was like, yep, he's going to catch it. And then nope, they just hold him.
Right.
Just so close to being so much better. I have pretty heavy Josh Palmer bags in best ball. So
same.
So let's hope. Yeah.
So again, my whole theme was trying to do a lot of doubling down here on my best ball share. So Josh Palmer is definitely doing that as well.
Yep. All right. Well, that does it. We've gone through all of our teams. So let's do a quick review of each of our teams. Megan, you just finished yours. Do you want to give a quick recap? How do you feel about how you drafted this team?
Well, I will say this is, stressful in the best way possible, and like is very fun. So I like this because, you go in with a plan, and then you have to pivot. And it definitely was, I had to stall and to make some picks here, but overall, when you have a Will Levis team, I don't think you feel super warm and fuzzy, but he does project pretty well points per dollar. He does project very well points per dollar. He's cheap. He's $5,000. So yeah, Will Levis to Ridley, and then Henry, Brian Robinson Jr., David Montgomery as my running backs, Mike Evans, Josh Palmer, skinny, Ridley, attack in as a run back. Ridley, the Ridley stack, and then Jawan Johnson, cheap tight end, and Brown's cheap defense. Hopefully the left tackle can still be a turnstile for the Chiefs, and we get some defensive points there.
Yeah, very nice. Only leaves 300 on the table, so almost used the full salary cap. I think it looks like a really, really strong team across the board. Jake, are you ready to do a review of your team?
Of course. Yeah. So yeah, this is, pretty close to what I was kind of hoping to come out of here with. I got, I think the Stone Smart pick was really crucial for me because it freed up just a ton of salary for these other positions. I sort of shot down the mid range when it came to wide receivers with McConkey, Sutton, Elijah Moore, all guys who I think are going to project really, really well, especially near the end of the week here. Got the top quarterback value in Justin Herbert. I mean, I guess right now it's technically Levis, but again, Herbert's just a guy that you can rely on a bit more consistently than Levis. A median for Herbert matters a bit more than for Levis because obviously Levis is just going to be all over the place with his performance. And then at running back, I feel really, really good about Chase Brown and Joe Mixon. I mean, those are guys who are locked into 20 plus opportunities. Rashad White, I think, is a bit iffier, but at the very least, even if Bucky Irving does get fully healthy and does suit up here, Rashad White isn't going to zero and can still get you 10 or 12, maybe, even push for like an 18 or 20 point performance with Bucky Irving in there. And then if Bucky Irving sits, Rashad White's going to be a top 3 running back value, will be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate. So yeah, overall, I feel, really, really good about this team, but I've also said that 15 other times this year and it hasn't generally worked out. So we'll see what happens, Neil.
My Bucky Irving bags appreciate you drafting Rashad White there.
Yeah, I did it. I did it for all the Bucky Irving best ball players out there who need him healthy in week 15. You guys can all thank me for taking Rashad.
Yeah. I ended up leaving 200 on the table. I've got an Aaron Rodgers double stack against the Jaguars. Rodgers with Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. Got a lot of correlation throughout the lineup. I've got in the Dallas-Carolina game, I've got Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Adam Thielen, and Jake Ferguson. So 2 per team in that game, which I think has potential to be high scoring. Jerry Jeudy, just hoping that he gets a ton of targets once again, as he has every game, I think, with Jameis Winston under center. And then Jets defense going up against Mac Jones and the Jaguars. Hard to feel too bad about Jets against Mac Jones. I think I feel pretty good about this team. Yeah, I think that's my final take is if I feel okay about it. Okay, I don't feel great about it, but ultimately I think it could work. It could work here. Nice matchups at least.
I like it. I think you've inspired me to do at least one Rodgers double stack this week.
That's what I like to hear. I want to be inspiring people with my Wednesday night drafts. That's the goal.
I think Rodgers is too old and washed, and he's going to overthrow every pass to Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson like he had in every game except for last week.
Should have taken the Jaguars defense if you truly believe that.
Yeah,
but I know in your heart of hearts you don't.
I probably should have. I mean, it's interesting with Rodgers because you still see it a little bit when you watch him on tape. You can still see some of the zip. You can still see that 4-time MVP in there, but it's just something's just not right. And especially with the Jets, I mean, I think motivation is going to be a huge question mark here down the stretch. But I mean, yeah, in like a 150 MME set, I definitely would be a little interested in getting 5 or 10 Rodgers doubles in there because it's just so condensed. I mean, last week showed it's pretty easy to see, everyone on the team hitting the bonus when Rodgers actually, gets going.
I saw a clip of Devontae Adams too, just like on Twitter talking about how, I obviously don't know what's going to happen in the future, but they can pass like other, quarterback wide receiver pairings. They can still they passed somebody this week, I think, or a duo this week. Yeah. And I think they could still, with a couple more touchdown connections, could pass maybe a couple more. So, there's, I'm at the end of the season, I get really into the narrative stuff.
So maybe I should have left Garrett Wilson off the stack and just assumed it's going to be concentrated everything to Devontae Adams.
I might do that now too.
Yeah,
that was I was diving into this after I saw that you had taken Adams before Garrett Wilson, but the volume over the last 5 weeks has been, about 3 or 4 expected fantasy points per game better for Devontae Adams rather than Garrett Wilson, which, I mean, obviously Devontae Adams is still a great wide receiver, but I think most people would agree Garrett Wilson is pretty clearly the best wide receiver on the team. So that is interesting. And I do wonder if the motivation to, be considered right there as the best quarterback wide receiver duo of all time is playing into that a bit down the stretch.
Yeah, no, it's most people believe that Garrett Wilson is the best receiver, but maybe not Aaron Rodgers, or maybe it is just the ego of Aaron Rodgers.
That's the only guy who matters, right?
Yeah,
exactly. He's throwing the passes.
Yeah. MTM Revolt says 2 times in a row for Adams, trading to be with his quarterback and then get axed before years end now. Yeah, not great for that duo. All right, well, we are done with the draft, so let's talk about what else we have coming up for the rest of the week. Megan, I'll start with you. Where can people find you? What else do you have coming out with content wise the rest of the week?
Sure. Megs08 DFS on Twitter. We do a show every Thursday on the FanSpeak Network, Prop Party at 3 p.m. We talk through all, and I got to cram tonight and tomorrow because I lean heavily into fantasy points for my favorite alts and props. And all you guys' amazing data. So we do Prop Party, favorite alts, favorite anytime touchdowns, favorite parlays. We've been doing well this season and hope to keep that rolling. But we have a ton of content on the FanSpeak Network for underdog drafts tonight. Andrew and Justin will be doing some underdog drafts. We got dog draft content up on fanspeak.com. But the FanSpeak Network, we do cover underdog draft and sports betting every weekday.
Very nice. Jake, how about you? Where can people find you? What else do you have coming out this week?
Yeah, so all my content is over at fantasypoints.com. I just released yesterday the DFS early look, which is sort of the earliest look at the week 15 DFS slate, get my sort of initial vibes on all things DFS. And then I'll be helping Scott Barrett out with his big slate breakdown that releases Saturday right around noon. So keep an eye out for that. And then beyond that, I do this show. I do an early look video with Thomas Tipple, who produces this. Also do 2 shows on Friday nights, both live on the Fantasy Points YouTube channel. One of them with Graham Barfield and Hilo, Cashing Points, where we walk the slate. We go game by game, talk about sort of everything you need to know from a DFS perspective to be able to crush that week. Then I have a follow-up show with Ryan Heath, the Underdog Drafter Party, where we tackle Underdog Battle Royale drafts. Really, really fun show. Always drink a few beers during that, answer plenty of YouTube comment questions, whether it's about, start sit, DFS, Battle Royale, what have you. And yeah, it's just a good time to vibe with me and Ryan. Hopefully one day we'll get Neil Orfield on the show, but we're still patiently waiting for him to accept our invite. But yeah, definitely check all that stuff out over on the Fantasy Points YouTube channel.
One day when you change the time from middle of dinner on Friday night after I've just finished all my content for the week, then it will come on for sure.
Yeah, we're looking into that. Corporate is investigating.
Nice. And I have, of course, I'll be all my showdown content is all my written content comes out at Fantasy Points behind the paywall. All my video content, showdown content is Flannelverse YouTube. That is my YouTube channel where I do breakdowns every Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. About 85 minutes prior to lock, I go live for about an hour, breaking things down, looking at matchups, looking at usage trends, etc. So check that out as well. All right, that is going to do it for the Week 15 cage match. Good luck to everybody with your best ball teams, your season-long fantasy playoffs, and if you don't have any of those left, then your DFS teams, I guess. Thanks, everybody. We will catch you next Wednesday.
What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.